Hi everybody, welcome to your next Friday lecture. So I don't really have any administrative details to go through this week, so I'm going to just jump right to the quiz and continue going through the answers that we didn't go through last time. But before I do that, I think we went through the answer already to number 4, but I want to take a little more time to talk about that because this is a pretty important one to understand. If you have a real solid understanding of what's going on in this statement, it will help a lot when we go on to more complicated queries soon. So we're looking at this query. It's saying select these two columns from these tables where this criteria tells it which rows to select. So you should know that by now. Okay, you should have a real good understanding. What comes after the select is which columns of data you want to keep. What comes after the where tells you which rows of data you want to keep. And what comes after the from tells you which tables of data you want to get that from. Okay, so in this case, we're doing a join, right? Because we know that because we're listing two tables, facility and location. So if we come back up here, we've got facility, we've got location, and we know it makes sense to join those because these locations go with these facilities. So we can see down here, if I look at this locker room, it's got F101, that corresponds with this F101, which is up here, which is the basketball arena. So we're doing a join. We're taking two tables and joining together to tell us what data to get. And if I scroll back down, the where, this portion right here of the where, is what tells it how to join those together. It says which column in one table matches which column in the other table. So most of you got this right, but I want to take time just to look at this actually running in Oracle so we can see what really is going on. So we have a real good understanding of, in particular, what does it mean when we join tables together? Okay, so I want to see this, and so I'm going to do it by actually just focusing on this portion of the query first. Matter of fact, I'm going to even replace this with a star. I'm just going to do a join without this criteria right here. So what's going to happen when I just say join, select star from facility, comma, location? In other words, join those two tables together and select all the columns. So remember, this is the biggest point to get. When I join two tables together, essentially what that's doing is making one bigger table by putting them together side by side. So it's essentially like taking this table right here and moving it right up here. So they're now side by side in one big table with now 5 columns. Okay? And then the other thing to understand is once it does that, it actually populates the rows by matching, again, every row of this table with every row of this table. So the first row would be this followed by this. The second row would be, once again, the first row now with the second row. And then it'd be the first row with the third row, and so on and so forth until we end up, now we're down to recreation room. The last row matches with the first, and the last row matches with the second, and the last row matches with the third. So every row up here is matched with every row here. So we end up with, we have 4 rows in this table, matched with 7 rows in this table. We end up with 28 total rows by the time we do all the combinations of matching one with the other. Now that's not what we actually really want to do in the end, because it doesn't make sense, for example, to match up this row about the recreation room with this row down here that has to do with the locker room that's supposed to match up with the football stadium. So that doesn't make sense. So we're not going to want to do that. As a matter of fact, that's why we're going to do the criteria to tell it how to match, how to join. But I want you to just see that that's what actually happens in the end. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to my Oracle. Okay, and this is this Oracle website. It's not really an Oracle database management system. It's a website that kind of interacts with one. It's not perfect either. The more I use it, the more I realize it's not as robust as I would like it to be either, but hopefully it'll keep working for us now. Okay, if we have too many problems, I'm going to have to find a more permanent actual database management system to use. But since this class, the textbook and the videos in the course, online course, keep using Oracle, they refer to Oracle, I would ideally like to keep using this. So we can use Oracle syntax just like they use in the class. So I'm trying to make this simpler on us. But if this website has too many problems, we'll have to find another solution. So please do let me know if you have too many problems. So the first thing to remember when you come into this is that, again, this is not a real Oracle database. A real Oracle database would store all of our data and keep it there permanently. This is just a website that we can use, but we have to recreate the database every time, or at least that's all I know to do with it. I don't know exactly how to save things. So we don't have any data in here, so I got to recreate it. So I'm going to come in and I have to paste. Whoops, that's not what I want to paste. I need to go get that. I have to find it real quick here. You're going to want to have this syntax that I gave you in Moodle. Keep that somewhere where you can get to it quickly so you can recreate this every time. So I'm going to copy all of that information that recreates the database, and I'm going to come paste it in here again and run that. So again, these are the statements creating all the tables and then inserting all of the data into those tables so we can start with. So I'm going to go ahead and run that. And I should get some messages that say, yep, all these tables are created, these rows are inserted. And then it's always a good idea after you do something like this to make sure it actually worked. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this up here and just say something like, I'm going to see if some data is there. So select star from, let's just say facility. And run that query. Okay, so that's a perfect example of how this is, for whatever reason, it's not completely robust. So notice it started to show the output and then it kind of just seems like it just cut off. So I'm going to come up and just try it one more time. Usually if you run it more than once, it'll work. Yeah. So if you run into this problem, for now, just if something doesn't work, try it again. It's ending up that this website is got a little flaky as well. So again, for now, we'll stick with it. If we have too many problems because of this, we'll abandon it for now. But if you have a problem like that, just try running it again. Usually it will work. Worst case scenario, if it comes to the worst case scenario, then you might even have to just close the website and open it up again, try it again. So anyway, so we've got some data in there. There's our facility table. I selected all the data from that. So now let's look at what I was talking about. What if I say facility, comma, location? Okay, so now we're selecting everything from two tables. We're not telling it how to join those tables. We're just saying join them together, which means set them side by side, join every row in one table with every row in the other. Really important to understand this part right here. So when I run this, okay, it worked that time, you can see we end up with 28 rows, as we were talking about, and it has all 5 columns, the 2 columns from the first table, the 3 columns from the second table, and it has every row matched with every other row. So this was the first row from the first table with the first row from the second table. Here's the data from the first row of the first table with the second row, the second table, and so on and so forth. And you can see that, again, some of these don't make sense. Like we're matching up, let's find the first one, we're matching up this information that's about the football stadium, F100, with this information that's supposed to be with F101, which is actually the basketball arena. So we're joining every row with every row, and that doesn't actually make sense, but that's what happens in a join by default. So when you first do that join, think of it this way, putting those 2 tables side by side, matching every row in one with every row in the other. And if you can think about it that way, then that criteria that we see next will make sense. So when I say where'd it go? Back. So when I add this piece in now, I'm going to go ahead and copy that and paste it over here. Okay, so we're saying where the FACNO column in the facility table is equal to the FACNO column in the location table. Okay, hopefully you know that, well, that's just saying which rows match in the 2 tables. So again, if I jump back here, I'm telling the database when I run this query that that column matches that column, right? The data in this column matches the data in this column. So that's good. That's what we're trying to tell it, is how to join the 2 tables together, which one matches which. But what's actually going on, I mean, that's a good way to think about it, but what's actually going on? Well, it's telling the database which rows to keep. And we only want to keep the rows where this value matches this value from the other table, right? We don't want to keep these ones, again, where F100 is matched up with F101. That doesn't make sense. This gate does not correspond with the football stadium. It corresponds with the basketball arena. So that's what this is doing. It's just saying, which rows do I want to keep? Only the one where this FACNO matches this FACNO. So I do want to keep this one. I do want to keep this one. I want to keep this one. I don't want to keep that one. It doesn't match up. Okay, and again, as we scroll all the way down here, like this one, I don't want to keep this row because I'm matching up something with F103 with something from F100. Those aren't supposed to go together. So that's all that's doing in the end. It's just telling the database only keep the rows where those two things match. Okay, so when I run this, see if I can run this now, see if it'll work. I'm going to click run. Yeah, now it's filtered it down, and if you look through every single one of these rows, it's only keeping the ones where these two values are the same, which in the end makes sense, right? Because we only want to keep the information where it's really supposed to go together, where the two tables match up. So we do know that this gate is referring to this basketball arena, and the ticket booth is referring to the football stadium. That's because we know these two things match. So that's what's going on there. And if you understand that, fundamentally, it'll help a lot when we get into more complex joins and things later. So think about it that way.